Imagine trying to market a product that, well, literally feels like swallowing raw gel.
Yeah, not the easiest pitch.
Right. Like your brain reads the nutritional label and you know intellectually that it's a medical miracle, but the second you put it on a spoon, your body's just screaming at you to spit it out.
It's a total physiological rejection.
Exactly. So how do you take that sensory nightmare and somehow turn it into the ultimate status symbol for Miami's most stressed out executives? Well, welcome to today's deep dive. We are thrilled to have you with us today.
We really are. We've got a fascinating one for you.
Our mission today is to pull apart the marketing evolution of Hacienda El Maguey's Nopal powder campaign. We're looking at how a brand took a traditional cactus, which is, universally stigmatized for being slimy, and transformed it into this premium lifestyle necessity.
And the transformation from a heavily scrutinized, super functional ingredient into an emotional anchor for burnt-out consumers it's really a masterclass in behavioral psychology.
Totally.
We are examining a stack of insights today. It spans from deep biological analyses of the nopal cactus itself all the way to localized, really granular audience research targeting the South Florida wellness corridor.
And we're going to uncover why simply telling people a food is biologically good for them just completely fails in today's market. Plus, why modern professionals are frantically searching for a way to just, hit pause.
Right. They are desperate for a break.
But to truly grasp the genius of this marketing strategy, we first have to understand the physical reality of the product.
The biology is foundational here.
It is. So the ingredient at the center of this is the nopal cactus, or if we're being scientific about it, Opuntia ficus indica.
Though most people just call it the prickly pear.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a plant that thrives in some of the most unforgiving environments on the planet. We're talking arid regions across Latin America, the Mediterranean, South Africa.
And it survives because of its internal biology.
Yeah.
And that same biology makes it an absolute nutritional powerhouse for humans. Every single part of the plant serves a purpose.
Right, like the fruit, the seeds, the flowers.
And especially the pads, which are technically called cladodes.
The biological breakdowns we're looking at in these sources are just wild. The density of the nutrition is off the charts.
It really is. You're looking at 17 different amino acids.
17. That's massive.
Things like glutamine and arginine, which are critical for muscle repair and immune function. Plus, it's packed with vitamin C and E, massive amounts of calcium, potassium, phosphorus.
And the polyphenols, right?
Oh, absolutely. It is incredibly rich in polyphenols, which act as high-grade antioxidants just sweeping through the body.
Okay, so all of those micronutrients are clearly vital, but the true biological engine of the nopal cactus, the reason it fundamentally alters human health, really comes down to its fiber content.
Yes, the fiber is the game changer. In the specific powdered form that Hacienda El Maguey produces, you're looking at roughly 10 grams of natural fiber in a single serving.
And that number kept coming up in the source material, 10 grams. Why is 10 grams from this specific plant such a critical threshold?
Well, to understand that, we really have to look at the human gut flora. We were talking about the trillions of microorganisms living in your digestive tract.
Which I think most people think of gut health purely in terms of digestion, right? Like just avoiding a stomach ache after a big meal.
Exactly. But the reality is so much bigger. Your gut flora actually makes up approximately 70% of your entire immune system.
Wait, 70%?
70%.
So your baseline ability to fight off a common cold or even a major virus is literally living in your intestines.
It is the command center.
Yeah.
And add to that the fact that your gut flora produces 20% of your body's bile.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and bile is what your liver uses to break down dietary fats and carry away waste. So without a healthy gut biome, your body essentially loses its ability to process fats efficiently.
That's incredible.
Furthermore, these microorganisms are responsible for detoxifying heavy metals that we ingest from our environment. They even dismantle oxalates.
Okay, wait, oxalates. What are those and why do I want them dismantled?
So oxalates are naturally occurring compounds found in incredibly healthy foods. Think spinach, almonds, beets.
The stuff we're always told to eat more of.
Right. And in small amounts, they are totally fine. But if your body cannot break them down, these oxalates bind to calcium in your blood and they crystallize.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, that is how you get kidney stones, which are, notoriously excruciating. A robust gut flora naturally degrades those oxalates before they can crystallize.
Okay, so the gut flora is doing a tremendous amount of heavy lifting here. It's defending against viruses, breaking down fat, filtering out heavy metals, and preventing kidney stones.
But those microorganisms require fuel to do any of that work. and their primary food source is fiber.
Which we don't get enough of.
Not at all.
Yeah.
In the modern Western diet, and particularly in recent trends like the strict carnivore diet, natural fiber is severely lacking. You are essentially starving your own immune system.
Right.
So when you introduce a massive 10-gram influx of dense, high-quality nopal fiber, you are immediately reigniting that 70% of your immune defenses.
Okay, so intellectually, that makes this plant a total non-negotiable superfood. It is loaded with the exact fuel your internal filtration system needs to survive.
Completely.
Which brings us to the massive, sticky, gelatinous elephant in the room.
The mucilage.
The slime. The source material literally refers to this as the slime stigma. And anybody who has ever sliced open a fresh nopal cactus knows exactly what we are talking about.
Oh, yeah. Biologically, mucilage is a thick, viscous substance the plant uses to store water and survive droughts.
Which is great for the cactus.
Great for the cactus. And actually, when consumed by a human, that same viscous gel works absolute miracles on the digestive tract. It functions very similarly to aloe vera.
Okay, I can visualize that.
As it moves through your system, the mucilage coats the stomach lining, creating a thick mucosal barrier. Medical professionals utilize it heavily to soothe extreme gastric inflammation, ulcers, and severe gastritis.
So it basically acts like a liquid bandage for your insides.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
But from a sensory perspective, trying to eat it is a nightmare. It's honestly like swallowing a spoonful of raw plant gel.
It is rough.
It reminds me of liquid fish oil. Like, you are fighting a physiological rejection reflex. You cannot logic your way out of a sensory aversion.
No, you really can't.
Your brain knows the gel is curing your stomach, but your throat just closes up and says, nope, we're not swallowing this.
It's a physical barrier that completely overrides the intellectual benefit.
Yeah.
You have an ingredient that could revolutionize someone's gut health, but they just refuse to put it in their mouth.
Which makes me question the core product here, because Hacienda El Maguey sells this as a dry 500-gram retail nopal flour.
Right, it's a powder.
So if the soothing magic of this plant lives in that wet, viscous mucilage, dehydrating, it sounds like you're killing the golden goose. Aren't you destroying the very biological properties you're trying to market just to make it easy to swallow?
It's a great question, and the manufacturing process is actually the key to solving that exact paradox. If they utilized high-heat industrial baking,
Which is the normal way, right?
yeah, it's the cheapest and fastest way to dehydrate a plant. But if they did that, they would absolutely obliterate the enzymes. The heat would break down the amino acids, and you would be left with essentially inert green dust.
Just a bag of empty calories.
Exactly.
Okay.
So to prevent that, Hacienda El Maguey employs an artisanal low-temperature drying process. It is an incredibly slow, deliberate dehydration.
Okay.
By keeping the temperature extremely low, they evaporate the water content without denaturing the plant's molecular structure.
That's smart.
It preserves the vibrant green color, the active enzymes, and the dense fiber matrix. Most importantly, the compounds that create the mucilage remain completely intact, just dormant.
Oh, I see. So the moment you mix that powder into a smoothie, or even when your stomach acid hits it, the mucilage reactivates.
Precisely. You get the internal liquid bandage without the trauma of chewing on slime.
You solve the sensory horror without sacrificing a single biological benefit. The powder is clean, potent, and shelf-stable.
It's brilliant product design.
It is. But solving the physical texture is only half the battle. Now they are staring down this massive psychological hurdle.
The marketing challenge.
Right. How do you market this green powder to a demographic that is completely overwhelmed by the wellness industry? The research reports we have drill down into the South Florida wellness corridor, and it's a very specific, highly competitive landscape.
The audience segmentation reveals two dominant overlapping profiles in that area.
Who are they?
The first is the modern high-performance professional. This demographic is heavily concentrated in financial and tech hubs like Brickell or Coral Gables. They are typically between 28 and 45 years old.
Okay, the executive crowd?
Yeah, they operate in high-stress environments and are aggressively data-driven. For them, wellness is not about relaxation. It is a strict project of optimization.
Oh, sure. They are tracking their sleep cycles, wearing biometric rings, mapping their heart rate variability.
Every single metric.
Okay.
Then the second segment is what the research calls the heritage-conscious health seeker.
And where are they?
You find them in culturally rich, artisanal neighborhoods like Wynwood, Kendall, or Doral. They reject corporate synthetic health solutions.
You want the real deal.
Right. They're looking for authenticity, cultural roots, and products that have a genuine history, rather than something cooked up in a Silicon Valley lab.
Wait, so looking at these early marketing materials from the brand, it looks like they originally tried to fight fire with fire.
They did.
Their initial campaigns were heavily focused on the clinical benefits. They were blasting terms like metabolic harmony and heavily pushing the no slime features. They were essentially trying to outscience the science bros in Brickell.
And they fell into the classic trap of problem and solution marketing. The logic was, our consumer wants to regulate blood sugar and fix their gut biome. Our powder does exactly that, so let's highlight the clinical mechanism.
Which, to be fair, seems entirely rational on paper. If you have an audience of finance executives who love data, biohacking, and optimizing every waking second, a hyperclinical, data-driven metabolic pitch should speak their exact language.
It sounds like a slam dunk.
So why didn't that work?
Well, the psychographic data from the Hartman Group explains the failure perfectly. Their research uncovered a massive systemic shift in consumer psychology called over-optimization backlash.
Over-optimization backlash. Wow, that phrase alone feels heavy. What does that actually look like in the life of a consumer?
It looks like structural burnout. These high-velocity professionals wake up, check their sleep score on an app, measure out exactly 30 grams of a synthetic protein isolate, log their macronutrients, and review their heart rate data before they even check their email.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. The cognitive load of tracking their own biology has triggered a chronic, low-grade stress response. Wellness has ceased to be about feeling good. It has literally become a highly demanding second job.
So they were pitching a functional chore to people who were already drowning in chores?
Precisely.
When the brand said, here's a clinical powder for metabolic harmony, the consumer's brain just translated that to, great, here is another task you have to complete to keep your body from failing.
And the Hartman Group data reinforces this brilliantly. A staggering 88% of consumers now state that mental and emotional health is equally as important as physical health.
88%.
Yes. They are exhausted by the endless pursuit of synthetic life hacks. They are actively searching for something grounded, something human, something that doesn't require a spreadsheet to consume.
So the brand was essentially selling a physical cure to a demographic that actually needed an emotional life raft.
That's the exact insight.
And that realization triggers the massive strategic pivot we see in the managerial decision memo.
Right. The brand recognized that competing on clinical metrics was a race to the bottom.
Right.
They had to transition from selling a functional ingredient to selling a lifestyle identity.
So the new messaging abandons metabolic harmony entirely, and they introduce this incredible new positioning, ancestral wellness for modern agility.
Which is such a brilliant copy line because it perfectly bridges the two South Florida segments. Ancestral wellness speaks directly to the heritage-conscious consumer in Wynwood who wants deep, authentic roots. And modern agility promises the high-performance professional in Brickell that this product will give them the clarity to survive their chaotic, high-stakes day.
And to make that positioning real, they built the campaign around the concept of the daily anchor. They completely stopped calling it a supplement and started calling it a morning ritual for clarity.
It changes the entire paradigm.
It really does. It's not just a beverage anymore. You know, it makes me think of a decompression airlock on a submarine.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right. When you are deep underwater dealing with immense crushing pressure, you can't just open the door. You need a transition space. The daily anchor is that 5-minute airlock before you step out into the pressure of a high-stress corporate job.
That transition from supplement to ritual is tapping into the psychological mechanism of habituation.
Okay, unpack that for us.
Well, supplements are commodities. If a consumer is buying your powder purely for 10 grams of fiber, the moment a competitor offers 11 grams for $1 less, you lose the customer. They jump ship.
Because it's just a math equation to them.
Exactly. But a ritual is deeply personal. By marketing the emotional experience of pausing your morning to prepare this ancient ingredient, the product evolves from a curiosity to an absolute daily necessity.
You stop competing on a spreadsheet and you start competing on identity.
Exactly.
So how do they actually build this habit in the real world? Because saying it is one thing, but doing it is another. The memo breaks down a 50-50 growth strategy. 50% direct-to-consumer and 50% B2B wholesale.
Yes. On the direct-to-consumer side, the digital overhaul was drastic. They launched a 30-day ritual challenge, completely stripping away any clinical aesthetics.
No more lab coats?
Out went the lab coats, the sterile white backgrounds, the medical charts. In came warm, natural light, rich earth tones, and lifestyle photography.
And that visual shift isn't just about looking pretty. There is a biological reason for that, right?
Absolutely.
Because clinical sterile lighting subconsciously triggers a stress response. It feels like being in a hospital or a doctor's office. Warm, natural lighting signals the parasympathetic nervous system. It literally tells the brain to rest and digest.
Every single touch point was redesigned to lower the consumer's cortisol levels.
That is so smart.
But the digital side alone isn't enough to build a physical habit. That is where the 50% B2B wholesale strategy becomes brilliant.
Right, because if you just sell a bag of green powder online, a stressed out executive still has to figure out how to mix it without making a huge mess in their kitchen. It remains a chore.
To solve the friction of adoption, the brand aggressively partnered with premium, high-traffic juice bars and artisanal cafes located squarely in Brickell and Wynwood.
Going right to where the people already are.
Exactly. They developed co-branded, powered by Hacienda El Maguey smoothies.
So they integrated the product directly into the daily routines these professionals were already executing anyway.
Right. You don't have to change their behavior.
You walk into your trusted local cafe, you see the beautiful branding, you order the smoothie, and someone else prepares it for you perfectly. You experience the ritual, you feel the gut-soothing benefits of the mucilage, and the habit is formed in the wild.
It transfers the established trust of the local cafe directly to the Nopal brand, providing immediate sensory proof that the product delivers on its promise of modern agility.
Now, to really cement this new ancestral wellness identity, the brand leans heavily into its history. They push an Eston 1976 heritage narrative and a messaging pillar they call radical transparency, heavily promoting a soil-to-smoothie supply chain.
Which is very appealing to that Wynwood demographic.
It is, but claiming ancestral roots when you are selling an expensive wellness product requires navigating a massive ethical minefield.
Consumers have a highly tuned radar for corporate appropriation. If you claim to offer ancient wisdom, you have to prove you respect the culture you are sourcing from, rather than just exploiting it for a marketing angle.
And this leads to a really dramatic piece of folklore included in the source material. It's an anecdotal story regarding the wild prickly pear cactus.
Quite a story.
According to the account, a man is diagnosed with severe gastric cancer. He stubbornly refuses surgery, effectively accepting a death sentence, but his wife refuses to accept that outcome.
Right.
Despite her own grueling travel schedule, she begins driving into remote, arid areas to physically harvest wild prickly pear cactus with a knife. She brings it home, prepares it, and feeds it to him daily.
And then what happens?
During a subsequent medical checkup, the doctors are baffled because his condition has miraculously improved. From that moment on, consuming the cactus becomes their sacred, non-negotiable weekly ritual.
It's a powerful narrative.
It is, but I have to throw a massive red flag on the field here.
I thought you might.
Using a miraculous anecdotal cancer recovery story to sell a bag of premium cactus powder to stressed-out executives feels incredibly manipulative. Legally and ethically, that is playing with fire. How does a brand leverage a story with that much emotional gravity without crossing major ethical lines?
It is without a doubt the most delicate tightrope in wellness marketing. The governing principle here is the standard of responsibility.
Which means what, exactly?
From a legal and ethical standpoint, a brand absolutely cannot make an official health claim. Stating or implying that purchasing Nopal powder will cure a disease is illegal, and it preys on the vulnerability of the consumer.
So if you can't promise the cure, why tell the story at all?
Because completely ignoring the plant's deep cultural history is its own form of erasure. The ethical pathway is to utilize the story not as clinical proof, but as a testimonial of heritage. It demonstrates the profound historical trust that generations of people have placed in this plant during their most desperate moments. The story captures the emotional attention of the consumer.
But then you have to pivot. You have to bring them back to reality.
Immediately. Once you have their attention through the cultural narrative, you strictly steer the conversation away from the word cure and anchor it entirely in the documented biological mechanisms.
So you tell the story of the wild harvest, but then you explain the actual science behind why it was making him feel better.
Exactly.
You explain that human beings lack the ability to synthesize their own vitamin C, and that the nopal is flooding his system with it to support his baseline immunity.
You explain how the mucilage from the plant was creating that thick mucosal barrier, physically soothing the severe gastric inflammation he was experiencing.
Right, the liquid bandage.
Yes. You detail how the massive influx of natural fiber was feeding his gut flora, allowing his body to efficiently process waste and detoxify.
So you aren't promising a miracle in a bag. You are educating the consumer. You are basically saying, look at the profound historical relationship humans have had with this plant. Now, look at the very real, scientifically validated biological properties it contains that support your body's natural resilience.
And you surround that education with radical transparency and clear disclaimers that the product is a tool for baseline vitality, not medical advice.
Which changes the dynamic entirely.
It empowers the consumer to make an informed, intelligent decision to integrate a powerful historical tool into their modern life.
Let's take a step back and look at the sheer distance we've covered today. We started with the biological reality of the Opuntia ficus indica, a plant bursting with 17 amino acids, immune-boosting fiber, and incredible gut-soothing mucilage.
But it was trapped behind the sensory nightmare of the slime stigma.
Right. A barrier that Hacienda El Maguey bypassed not with industrial heat, but with an artisanal, low-temperature drying process that preserved the microscopic enzymes while solving the physical texture.
But the real genius wasn't just solving the physical problem. It was deeply understanding the psychological state of their consumer.
Totally. They looked at the South Florida Wellness Corridor. They saw the Brickell professionals drowning in biometric data, suffering from over-optimization backlash, and desperately craving an emotional pause button.
They realized that shouting about clinical metrics was only adding to the consumer's chronic stress.
So they pivoted. They abandoned metabolic harmony for ancestral wellness for modern agility.
They fundamentally transformed a functional green powder into a daily anchor.
A decompression airlock for the modern mind. Through warm visual cues, strategic juice bar partnerships, and the ethical use of cultural storytelling, they built an unshakable lifestyle habit.
It is the ultimate proof that in a landscape overwhelmed by synthetic data, the most powerful marketing tool is grounded, human empathy.
Surviving the modern world requires more than just optimizing your biological inputs. It requires a moment of intentional stillness.
It really does.
Look closely at your own morning routines tomorrow. We all have them. But ask yourself, what is your personal daily anchor? Is the first thing you do genuinely grounding you in the present moment, offering you a sense of clarity and peace before the chaos begins?
Or has it just become another chore?
Exactly. Has your morning just become another highly optimized, stressful chore you have to blindly check off a list to keep the machine running? What traditional practices, what quiet little rituals might be sitting right under your nose just waiting to be rediscovered?
A vital question to carry with you.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Take a moment to find your anchor today. We'll catch you next time.